how can we have a stronger motivation? You have a strong motivation by having one internally and not externally. See, many people seem to be motivated by external things, like getting a car, getting a house, something materialistic, even other people's approval, things outside their power to control. So that if they get what they desire, that thing is no longer able to pull them to do more action. How can we build the motivation? Well, internally, you have to filter out your thoughts and align them with what you want to do through your focus. So 2 things we need to find. First is mental state. Mental state is the environment of your mind, what thoughts you allow in and what thoughts you take out. And many people don't have good environments in their mind, and that leads them to have inconsistent motivations because it's driven by their emotions and not their actions. See, an emotion is an automatic reaction. You can't always control it. For example, if someone just hits me somewhere, I may have the emotion of anger or frustration rise up. Like, man, why did you just hit me? Right? That's an automatic reaction. Now your feeling is when you become aware of that. I feel angry. I feel frustrated. Okay, that's my awareness of my feeling. My expression is my response to that feeling. Do I choose to punch the person back or do I choose to forgive the person? So we have that decision to make. And many people, because they're driven by their feelings, they don't trade out their negative thoughts. They're driven by whatever automatic reactions come. Their responses are inconsistent. Some days they forgive. Some days they're motivated to punch them in the mouth. So because those different motivations, their desires are also shifted and they don't do the things they always will to do. So we got to filter out our thoughts and not be so driven by our automatic reactions. If I feel anger come up, I don't have to respond in a way that's consistent with the anger. I love what Proverbs 14:13 says. It says, even in laughter, the heart may sorrow. That shows us how our outward expressions don't have to be consistent with inward realities. So if I'm sorrowful, I can still act happy. And get this, when you act in ways inconsistent with reality for long enough, that then becomes reality. So if I'm sorrowful and I choose to act happy, I then become more happy. Similarly, if I feel angry but I choose to forgive, I become not only more forgiving, but I become a person who forgives. And because I have that identity that I view myself, it leads to more constructive actions because it's motivated by who I see myself as and not who I feel myself as in the moment. And when we do that, when we respond with a better mental state, we can align our thoughts and have more motivation towards what we actually desire because those are going to be consistent and not inconsistent based on reactions. Now, the second thing I said was focus. We had to define that term as in focus is directing your thoughts towards an aim. And again, that goes back to mental state, why so many people fail because they may have a desire, they have an aim, like an aim to please God. But if your aim is to please God and you're focusing on this world, well, it's harder to act inconsistent with the thoughts you repeatedly have, with the focus you're choosing to aim at. But when I shift my aim, I do what it says in Colossians 3:2, so your minds are things above. Guess what? Now, because my focus on Him, I become more aware of Him. Because where your focus is, there your desire goes, and there your awareness goes. For example, there's 2 aspects of things in life. There's positive aspects and there's negative aspects. And the aspect I choose to focus on, I become more aware of. So if I focus on all the gifts and blessings and things in my life, well, that produces more awareness of that. And guess what? I become more thankful. It's funny. The most thankful people see more things to be thankful for because they become more aware of it through their focus on being thankful. But ungrateful people, guess what? They're focused on the negative, so they become more aware of negative things in life, and that reinforces the only poor state they're in. And that produces more unthankfulness. And going back to mental state, which I said, becoming a forgiving person, you can become an ungrateful person. And guess what that does? It doesn't matter what your desires are, because you are ungrateful as a person, your motivation is going to be more unthankful unless you filter out your thoughts through your focus and your mental state and shift it towards the desire you are instead of who you are at the moment. Another thing that'll give us more motivation is acting according to who we are. See, one way I see trust is the certainty that comes from believing evidence. For example, you want to trust God more, understand more of who He's like, because He's never given us a reason in Christ not to trust Him. He's never wronged us, never forsaken us, never left us. He never cast a shifting shadow, so He does not change. In fact, He always stays the same, as it says in Hebrews 13. And God also, He cannot lie. So He's faithful. Even when we're faithless, He remains faithful because He cannot deny Himself. So He's never given us a reason not to trust Him. When you know that about God, Well, you have evidence to point to that he is reliable. You can see what he's done through 2,000 plus years of history and say, man, he is someone who has evidence of being reliable. And as you focus on that evidence, as you choose to believe that evidence, you now trust God more. And that's the same principle we can apply to our own lives. If I want to trust myself more as a basketball player, well, I have to have evidence that I'm good at basketball. So if I keep on shooting and I shoot 100 shots a day and I shoot 90% on my shots, well, I have evidence to point to. So if I choose to believe the evidence, now I have more trust in myself. That produces more confidence, and that changes who I am. See, as I have confidence in an area of my life, that gives me more certainty of the person I'm becoming in that area, so that over time I become a good basketball player. And as I become it, I have motivation to continue to live that out. For example, right now, I'm pretty good at basketball because of all the years I took in training and becoming more confident in it. Now, because I'm so good right now, it gives me motivation to continue to have that same progress, to retain what I had. Why? Because I become a basketball player. So I want to have that as long as I can. Some people are so good at math, they're so good at jobs, they're so good at other things in life that even though it's not always useful to them anymore, they may moved on that from that stage of their life. They continue to practice that. They continue to have retaining on that because they become that person. So the way to master motivation, you got to have something that's internal, that's based upon a value and based upon a desire that moves you to become the type of person who can fulfill that motivation based upon the way you trust yourself, since you have actions pointed into that direction. And I hope everyone has the motivation of being well-pleasing to God. That is the whole point of our lives, the reason why we're here. And trust me, there's nothing better than Him. I just, every day you understand more about who He is and just like how great He is, how awesome He is, and His law, His statutes, ordinances, and He's never wronged us, He never forsaken us, He loves us, and it's just amazing the more you know about Him. So like, you just give your life to study His word, to know Him through His word. You may not have all. He said, hey, just because it's simple doesn't mean it's always easy, right? It's simple for how we can grow in a relationship with God. It's not always easy, but you put in the work, you will get better results. So hopefully you find the motivation in being pleasing Him, and that'll drive you to the actions that put you in that position. So thank you for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe. See you next time.